Okay, we're on lesson 96 of the Workbook of A Course in Miracles. And when I read this last night, I was just amazed at how super packed it is from the beginning to end. And it's almost, I don't know, maybe I should just read the lesson rather than give a commentary because it's really all in here. Salvation comes from my OneSelf. This is really an incredible lesson. There's a couple parts I really want to get to, so let's see. Although you are OneSelf, you experience yourself as two, as both good and evil, loving and hating, mind and body. And that's the nature of the split mind. That's what we're being told. Our mind is split, and we're here to heal that split in our mind. This sense of being split into opposites induces feelings of acute and constant conflict, of course. How could it not? If you think yourself both loving and hating, if you're capable of both loving and hating, then that's going to put a terrible strain. Or you're both capable of good and evil, that's going to put a terrible strain, a terrible stress internally within you on the tension contained in those opposites is just a tremendous amount of just that tension that gets played out upon your body, within the world of space and time, within the projected imagery that we're utilizing in order to either remain a body or heal our mind so we no longer suffer from illusions about what we are. The sense of being split into opposites induces feelings of acute and constant conflict and leads to frantic attempts to reconcile the contradictory aspects of this self-perception. And this perhaps is some of the best advice that you'll ever get in A Course in Miracles. You have sought many solutions, and none of them have worked. The opposites you see in you will never be compatible. But a solution exists. One does exist. The fact that truth and illusion cannot be reconciled, no matter how you try, what means you use, and where you see the problem, must be accepted if you would be saved. That's one of those lines. And I don't know how to say this. When you read this, you really do have to read it as a message to yourself. You have to read it and not just read the words, but hear the words you're reading within your heart and your mind so as to allow them to penetrate deeper than you would if you're reading something to amuse yourself, to just keep your mind off the contradictory aspects of your self-perception that are causing you the tension and the conflict. You have to read this in a different way. You have to read this and take it in rather than just read it as a distraction from what it is your life has become. Until you accepted this, till you have accepted this, you will attempt an endless list of goals you cannot reach. A senseless series of expenditures of time and effort. Hopefulness and doubt, each one as futile as the one before, and failing as the next one will surely do. And until you see how you're doing that to yourself, you're going to continue to do it. But the recognition now, if you can read this and really hear it and see in yourself how you've been doing this to yourself, and now accept why you've been doing this to yourself, you're going to save yourself a lot of the expenditure of time and effort, and you're going to start to experience less and less doubt and more hopefulness as to the fact that this is being solved within you. It's not being reconciled. Truth and illusion are not going to be reconciled in you. One or the other is true. Problems that have no meaning cannot be resolved within the framework they are set. And that was one of Einstein's great understandings. You can't solve the problem within the frame of reference that the problem exists, because it's the frame of reference that maintains the necessity for the problem in order to keep your attention on the frame of reference rather than to step out beyond it where the truth or the answer really is. We make these problems. The ego presents us with problems which cannot be solved, which cannot be reconciled. And that's a way of distracting us from discovering the truth about who we are and the fact that these problems have no reality. That's the Holy Spirit's function. The Holy Spirit's function is for us to look at these irreconcilable problems without an attempt to reconcile them, and allow the light and understanding of the Holy Spirit to demonstrate to you that the problem that you're attempting to solve has no reality once you discover who you really are. It's been the problem and the attempt to solve it that's kept you from the great discovery of the self that you were created to be by your Father. Problems have no meaning. Problems that have no meaning cannot be resolved within the framework they are set. Two selves in conflict could not be resolved, and good and evil would have no meeting place. That sounds simplistic, but when you really look at what it's saying, if there really are two selves, then you're not going to be able to resolve the issue. You have two selves, and each one will be what they are. And if they're in conflict, they're going to be in conflict. There's no resolution. The best you come up with is truce, which is what most people in this world would refer to as peace. Trying to establish a truce between warring sides that have no ability to join together because they're opposite to each other in every way. The self you made can never be yourself, nor can yourself be split in two and still be what it is and must be forever. A mind and body cannot both exist. Make no attempt to reconcile these two, for one denies the other can be real. If you are physical, your mind is gone from yourself, from concept, for it had no place in which it could be really part of you. If you are spirit, then the body must be meaningless to your reality. And what's going to begin to happen is the ideas that we use to maintain the body are going to be replaced. The images that we use to maintain the body are going to be replaced with new ideas about what everything is, and a way of seeing it that no longer contradicts or conflicts with the reality of itself. So our seeing does not stop in that sense at the problem. Because of the understanding and the light that's brought to us by the Holy Spirit, our seeing begins to go past that, because it no longer presents the conflict. Why? Because of what it said earlier here, because we're beginning to understand that you can't reconcile the two, only one or the other is possible. This is a good one. Now, this is an important line here. Not that they're not all important, but this is one of those ones that, you really want to take a look at and understand what's being said. Spirit. Spirit makes use of mind as means to find its self-expression. Spirit. Spirit of God is one. The Spirit of God is the spirit of oneness. And the spirit can make use of the mind to find its self-expression, to find how it can utilize whatever you are to express the truth about yourself and show forth the glory of your Creator. God created me to show forth His goodness. And the mind which serves spirit is at peace and filled with joy. Its power comes from spirit, and it is fulfilling its happy function here. Yet mind can also see itself divorced from spirit and perceive itself within a body it confuses with itself. Without its function, then, it has no peace, and happiness is alien to its thoughts. Why? Because it's always attempting to reconcile opposition and opposites that have no existence, but keep you locked in a pattern of not finding a solution, therefore not experiencing the peace of the resolution of the problem. Now, what this is saying is the problem as the ego sets it up is not possible to resolve. So you have to appeal to a higher court, a higher judge. And that higher judge is the spirit of truth, which is within you and within all of us. And in that spirit of truth, it shows you that there's never been a time when the truth hasn't been true or illusions have ever been real. And it's just merely a faulty choice mechanism on your part. But now you're able to rise above that. And in any situation where confusion sets in, begin to ask what it is I'm truly here to do, and realign yourself with the truth, with the self, with the expression, with the self-expression. Allow the mind that's in confusion to align itself with spirit so as to begin to express itself with the spirit of oneness. So therefore there is no opposition, because there's no opposition in oneness. Yet a mind apart from spirit cannot think. It has denied its source of strength and sees itself as helpless, limited, and weak. And who here has not experienced that condition? Dissociated from its function, now it thinks it is alone and separate, attacked by armies massed against itself and hiding its body's frail support. Waste no more time on this. Who can resolve the senseless conflict which the dream presents? Who can? Because the dream is designed to present senseless conflicts that cannot be resolved, to preoccupy your mind and your heart with the inability to solve the problem, to cause frustration, to keep you locked in the nightmare, so as for you to not withdraw the attention that you're giving it, because without the attention that you're giving it, it cannot survive in your heart and mind, and you would just simply rush home to heaven where you already are. What could the resolution mean in truth? What purpose could it serve? What is it for? Salvation cannot make illusions real and solve a problem that does not exist. That's exactly what you're being saved from. The reality, you're being saved from problems that do not exist, and the thought that they are your reality and what you're here to overcome. It's not what you're here to overcome. You're here to overcome the addiction to thinking the world is real and that there's anything here that must be solved in order for you to be saved. Perhaps you hope it can, yet would you have God's plan for the release of his son bring pain to him and fail to set him free? Now, here we go. Yourself retains its thoughts, and they remain within your mind and in the mind of God. The Holy Spirit holds salvation in your mind and offers it the way to peace. Salvation is a thought you share with God. Remember the lesson, only the thoughts I share with God are real. Because his voice accepted it for you and answered in your name that it was done. And if you're sharing one mind, if you're sharing OneSelf, then when that OneSelf accepted it in your name, and it was accepted for you, by you, and now it's time to discover what it was accepted for you by utilizing what it gave to you, what your Creator gave to you to demonstrate the truth of what's already been accepted for you. And that's not the world. That is what the Holy Spirit's function is. Thus is salvation kept among the thoughts yourself holds dear and cherishes for you. We will attempt today to find this thought whose presence in your mind is guaranteed by him who speaks to you from your OneSelf. Now, here's what I want to get to. salvation comes from my one self. Its thoughts are mine to use. These are your real thoughts, the ones you have denied. These are the real thoughts, the thoughts you have denied. And let your mind go wandering in a world of dreams to find illusions in their place. Here are your thoughts, the only ones you have. Salvation is among them. Find it there. Now, this is the cool part. This is the part that makes the fulfillment of your function much easier than you thought, and is done in a way in which is totally opposite to the way that we go about our tasks and attempt to complete them in the world of space and time. If you succeed, the thoughts that come to you will tell you you are saved, and that your mind has found the function that it sought to lose. Yourself will welcome it and give it peace. Restored in strength, it will again flow out from spirit to the spirit in all things, created by the spirit itself. And this is how communication is restored. Your mind will bless all things. Confusion done, you are restored, for you have found yourself. So now, there's a part in the Course that asks you, Jesus asks us, reminds us not to leave a brother without a blessing, without your blessing. This is exactly what he's talking about. This is the blessing, to not leave your brother without you blessing him in the recognition that salvation is complete in you, and allowing that spirit of oneness to flow out from you to the spirit in all things created by God, thereby enlivening the spirit in all things as you share the spirit that God created you with, and allow it to be ever increasing in the sharing, both with God to you and with you to all things. That's the never increasing nature of the kingdom and the way in which salvation really works. It's not a concept, it's a flow of the spirit of oneness. Your mind and your heart begin to utilize the spirit of oneness as, or the spirit of oneness begins to use the mind and the heart that's turned to it to express its certainty of salvation. Now, how that's done, the words it's used, and words become meaningless, because it really is the answering of the prayer of your heart, and the experience of the joy of the heart in receiving the answer to the prayer that enlivens you and all the world around you, simply because you are not separate from it, and your own wholeness and perfection is the only thing that can be shared, because nothing in separation can be shared, because that's the nature of what separation is. Not being able to share what exists in limitation and separation as not part and parcel of anything else. So therefore nothing here is complete, so nothing can be shared. The only thing we can share is the love of God that we find when we dedicate our heart and our mind to serving the purpose of the spirit of the oneness with which we were created, and the joy of the recognition that nothing is excluded, so therefore nothing is outside of it, so there is really nothing to fear. Yourself knows that you cannot fail today. Perhaps your mind remains uncertain yet a little while, but be not dismayed by this. The joy yourself experiences, it will save for you, and it will be yours in full awareness. And that's what we want. The joy that's been saved to us because we've never left the kingdom, shared and recognized in full awareness in the totality of the sonship, so we can end the necessity to utilize the dream as a learning phase for our return to the recognition that we are the kingdom, and we share that kingdom freely with every living thing.